the Druids, they were an ancient magical people. And they were very ceremonial. These people were the ancient Celtic people. And they knew a lot about magic, ceremonial magic, but also lesser magic, which involves, in a degree, of psychology. In a degree, it is psychology. Lesser magic is truly is, because it is affecting another person's will or another person's opinion on another subject. And what better way to use that than psychology? And the ancient Druids knew this, and even Anton LaVey. And actually, a lot of people, let me say this first, that nobody really knew what Druid magic really was, or until the late 1960s revolution. Okay, and everybody thought that this was holy magic, Wicca, stuff like that. But there was a revolutionary called Anton LaVey, and he pointed out that that there's a thing called lesser magic, and he released a book on psychology called The Complete Witch, renamed The Satanic Witch. And it was revolutionary because nobody really thought what truly made lesser magic other than simple psychology and simple understanding on psychology. And then you fast forward a few years, and you will see many different things. But there's a lot of emphasis on the new magical revival cult. A lot of Wiccans, a lot of Thelemites, a lot of Satanists go out and practice their own wills of magic. And people now are finally understanding that lesser magic comes from the mind, or magic comes from the mind, which should induce psychological elements. People are starting to realize this more and more, but it is nothing more than psychology at its very core. So when you think about it, then they start understanding what is more influential. Hang on. What is more influential? Religion, which is what they were focusing on, or media. What is trending, what people look at more than what is, what biblical stuff, like music videos. A lot of magicians, the most recent the most recent occurrence happened in a Miley Cyrus song, and she was saying, I'm a witch, hallelujah. And of course Star Wars, but of course a lot of movies, because it's named after the druid tree of holly, the druid holly tree. And that is how you exert your will onto an entire populace. And that is how things occur and things happen, because that is the will of the situation, and that is the will of the future, and all of that. And there's a lot to say on this subject, but I recommend just researching basic witchcraft. Go to Barnes & Noble's, to the occult section, look up Wicca. There's a book called Wikipedia. There's a lot of initiatory Wiccan things, and I highly recommend that. And I highly recommend you actually study the darker side of Hollywood, where like in the movie Poltergeist, they used real bones, right? Well, then look up Babble-on. You ever David Smith or Keith Smith or something, Jay and Silent Bob. the Silent Bob guy, I think it's Keith Smith, he has a talk show called Babble-on. Well, what's Babylon? Babylon is an ancient magical city, anti-biblical city, pre-biblical city. And then you gotta understand that the entire idea of Babylon from Aleister Crowley is sacred feminine goddess. It's a sacred feminine goddess in herself. And this sacred feminine goddess comes from actually Revelation. Revelation 13 and 14. And then I highly recommend watching the episode Supernatural on DVD or Netflix or whatever, called Hollywood Babylon, and it goes into the occult scenarios of Hollywood, and depicting filmmakers using real witchcraft incantations at best. So all of this I highly recommend, and this is a future point of study. At the end of this video, I want to also recommend, after Supernatural, of course, the filmographer called Kenneth Anger. Not only was he a magician in the cult of Aleister Crowley, but he was also involved with Anton LaVey's Church of Satan. And he made a movie called Lucifer Rising. That is another subliminal hit and suggestion for you to research. Just research the man himself, not his movies, because his movies have a lot to deal with, stuff like that, like merging Satanism and magical stuff like Egyptology and all that. But I highly recommend it. I highly recommend you look into the person himself.